like the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Phoenix Park on the west bank of Demerara will celebrate 50 years of existence this year. Now Phoenix Park is the first self-help scheme here in Guyana. And this week on West Side Story, we're focusing on Phoenix Park. I am Malika Ramsey and this is West Side Story. The celebration for Phoenix Park's 50th anniversary celebrations was launched recently right here in the community of Phoenix Park with, of course, a formal ceremony. Councillor for the area, Mrs. K. Lohoon, spoke about her plans and her intentions and where she would like to see Phoenix Park go in the next decade. Let's take a look.
I can remember coming here and seeing in front of each home had something planted, peas. And I can remember very well that was the way we were supposed to go. And by now we should be feeding ourselves. But there was a diversification which came about because of people did not have the vision that the founder leader of this country had. That is why every time I speak I have to make reference to him. If we had just followed his lead, because he had a vision for Guyana, if he had just followed, Phoenix Park would have been an outstanding community. I'm not saying that it's not outstanding, but I'm saying that it would have been much more recognized as the first self-help in Guyana. Phoenix Park should be a community which is inclusive of all its residents. For development in any community, we need full participation from members who live within the community, because we would not be, if we sit on the sideline, we would not be able to see what is going on. So it should be a cooperative effort of everyone who lives in Phoenix Park to ensure that the development of Phoenix Park is a part of their forte. We should not be left out and say, it's not me thing, I'm not being involved because it's got a few people who go, no. We are to divert from that. We are to be proud of who we are, proud of where we came from, proud of the point we are at now, and work together to develop a beneficial community, not for ourselves, because most of us are past the age of development. Development for the youth. Don't let them fall by the wayside, as it happens in most communities. It is our responsibility as elders of this community to ensure that the young people are given the opportunity that they deserve.
For those of you who are not sure where Phoenix Park is located, just to give you some idea, currently behind me it shows that we're obliquely opposite the West Demerara Secondary School, which means that Phoenix Park is just after Klein Portroin. Some people still refer to it as Klein Portroin. After hearing from Mrs. Lohoon what she would like to see happen right here in Phoenix Park, I always remind you that the Minister of State, the Honorable Joseph Harmon, is the Minister and of course the Member of Parliament responsible for the West Side jurisdiction. Minister of State Joseph Harmon also attended that formal opening ceremony and he gave some of the insight and the history behind the initiation of Phoenix Park. Let's take a look and let's hear from Minister of State Joseph Harmon.
Phoenix Park, as I think the skit quite rightly said, came about as an idea in the 1960s. I think it might have been 1964, 1965. But this was a time when cooperativism and self-help was very prevalent and prominent in the African continent. I think at that time our founder leader, who later on became the Prime Minister and then President, went to Africa and was struck by this idea of people working for themselves and benefiting as a result of that, along with the assistance of government. And so he came back very excited about this idea, about self-help and about cooperativism, and started to talk about it all across the country. The idea, I believe, took hold here on the West Bank in Port-Join. And we never really make a distinction between West Klein Port-Join, North Klein Port-Join, Central Port-Join. Port-Join is Port-Join. That's how we knew it. And so the idea took hold, and the persons, as you were told earlier, decided that, look, we're going to approach central government and get help. I want to acknowledge the vision of those persons who recognize that we can turn this crab bush into a flourishing housing development. And so this is really how we have Phoenix Park today. But Phoenix Park as a community in 1965, I recall as little boys, we actually did the self-help work here in this community. Where we are, where this building is, was the site office of the development. And in there you had all the milk, the powdered milk, the cheese, the butter, and so on that you actually get when you work at the end of the week. There will be a foreman there who will tally up the hours, and then you go in there and you collect your butter, you collect your milk, you collect your biscuit, and so on. And really that was the motivation behind many of us as young men coming here to work in the afternoon, working alongside the senior persons in the community. And that spirit, I believe, is something that over the years, as we traverse as a nation, we seem to have lost that spirit of cooperativism, that spirit of self-help, of working together to ensure that you can build communities. We've lost that spirit, and we now everybody looking for a house lot, for a piece of land, and these kinds of things. When Phoenix Park was completed, the persons who were entitled to properties here were given the keys to a house. You weren't given a house lot, you were given the keys to a house, a complete house. So that the 75 persons who came here at the beginning of this Phoenix Park were all given houses based on a lottery. The names were put in a bag, and you had 25, 25, 25, because as you see how the scheme is developed, is an inner circle and an outer circle. So you had the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase. And your names were placed in a bag, and as you take out whatever lot you get, that is what you're given, and you're given a key to the house.
And of course, before we go from this feature on the West Side Story, it would not be fitting to leave you without acknowledging some of the older persons here in Phoenix Park. And of course, who better than to do that but the Minister of State, Joseph Harmon himself. And of course, you heard in the earlier clip that he also grew up in this very community. Joseph Harmon gave some interesting presentations and donations to at least 3 of the very older folks living here in Phoenix Park. Take a look at this.
I want to acknowledge and ask the organizers here today as a sort of initial gesture to identify at least 3 of the original inhabitants of Phoenix Park. I think they've been able to identify some of these persons, and I've actually brought a special gift for those persons. But let me tell you really about the gift. In 1965 and 1966, you didn't have television or too many televisions. Those people who had television had to be rich, or very rich. Most of us listened to the radio. In fact, some of us didn't even have a radio. And in the houses where you had the radio, it turned on at the announcement time, and news, and then it turned off. Battery. Battery. But we grew up understanding that the radio was an important part of our life. that we listened. I remember the time when President Kennedy was shot in the United States of America. As little boys, we were listening on the radio as the horses were actually taking the casket and so on. And today I want to recognize that as persons who actually came up in that era, who were original inhabitants of Phoenix Park, I'd like to present at least 3 of them, with each one of them with a radio, so that you can listen and hear what's going on in the country.
Extremely certain that you learned a lot about Phoenix Park on this edition of West Side Story. But don't go away, we have more of this week's edition of West Side Story for you as we moved from Phoenix Park to another community. This is West Side Story. Well, thank you very much for staying with us here on West Side Story this week. We have moved from the community of Phoenix Park to the community of Good Intent. Of course, all this is happening right here on the west side. Of course, West Side Story aims to let you know exactly what's happening in terms of developmental works here on the west side in Region 3. This time we're standing in front of the Good Intent Health Center, and some developmental works was recently done there. Returning to West Side Story this week is Pastor Leroy Levens, who is no stranger to our program. He's like family now, and he's going to tell you all about the developmental works recently done here. Welcome back to West Side Story, sir.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Malika.
great. Let's talk about what happened here recently.
Recently, the RDC has decided to do some great work here to improve the development of this health center. So as you have noticed, we have done the fence to the side of the building, and also we have constructed a new trestle and also a new sanitary block. Because we have seen the need that more persons have been coming to the health center, the needs becomes greater.
Okay.
And so we decided that things need to be done here.
About how many, roughly, just a rough average, how many communities on this one side does this health center serve, would you say?
This health center serves about 5
Okay.
communities starting from Belgium.
Okay, and I'm assuming it's busy on a daily basis.
Yes,
it's pretty
busy.
quiet today. It's pretty quiet today.
Yes, because today is Saturday.
Okay.
So it serves its purpose within this environment, and also persons from out of field area usually come here to have their blood pressure checked and dressing to be done and so forth.
Okay, wonderful, and I can see that the paint looks fresh.
Yes, the building was recently painted so that we can have a good image for people in the community,
yes.
and the person will feel comfortable coming to an health center that have a high standard.
Yeah, you don't want to come to a health center and feel sick. So at the minute we pulled up, it looked really inviting. So
Yes,
I'm happy
yes.
about that.
Yes,
All right, congratulations on that. Viewers, don't go anywhere. West Side Story will return in a bit because we're heading to another community. Stay with us. Well, our final stop stop this week on West Side Story is right here in Potentia. And this time we're at the Potentia Nursery School where some recent renovation works would have been done. And again, Pastor Levens rejoins me on West Side Story to talk about those works. Yes, let's talk about what happened here recently.
Yes, Malika, and as you know that education, our president has been saying over and over that education is the key
Yes.
to really transform our economy. And therefore, Potentia Nursery School, the region has decided to do an extension to the building so that the children and teachers can be more comfortable. So that the results that we expect to get from the young ones coming up can be more promising.
Okay, yes, because they usually say healthy minds and healthy bodies make really good children. So I'm thinking with this extension and more space, it's healthy too. It would be healthy for them.
Yes, it would be healthy.
All
But
right.
the community has welcomed this extension because it was their hope for a long time to have this thing being done. And so they are happy that it's being done now so that the children can be more comfortable, the teachers and so forth.
All right, great. Thank you so very much, Pastor Levens. It's always a pleasure having you on West Side Story.
Yes, I like that.
And of course, we will definitely seek you out again.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
And viewers, unfortunately, this is where I have to leave you this week from West Side Story. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do that again next time. Thank you to everyone who played a major part in this week's edition of West Side Story, including the residents of Phoenix Park. Don't forget, the official time for the 50th anniversary celebrations of Phoenix Park is going to be in November, and we plan to highlight some of the other activities they're going to be having for that. But the activities, the official launch took place recently, as you saw in the beginning of this very broadcast. I am Malika Ramsey. This has been West Side Story. Join me again next time. Goodbye.